Hello everyone, my name is Mackenzie Steele and I am currently a junior at ASU here and I am studying environmental engineering. Today I will be talking to you guys about DPR or direct potable reuse water. Here in Arizona, as you notice, we live in a desert and water is not necessarily a big commodity in the desert. So as a city, we have to think about the next sustainable step for us to ensure that we have a longevity as a city. Currently, our city is planning on switching to DPR in the future. So by raise of hands, how many of you guys know what DPR is? I would assume it's very little of you. Basically, what DPR is the treatment of wastewater, and it's directly imported into the distribution system of Phoenix, Arizona. And how many of you would actually drink the so-called treated wastewater? I would assume that a lot of you are not too interested in doing this. A lot of people that I've talked to have found a great disdain against it, even though there is nothing wrong with it. As you see, this came from the treatment and I will drink it perfectly fine. It tastes like any other water. As an environmental engineering, we look into the treatment of drinking water and wastewater. So this is really my specialty, and we have done a lot of research, and we would not be implementing this into society if we knew it wasn't a good thing. So essentially, in this talk, I will be taking you through the steps of how we currently as a city get our water, how we are using it, what exactly the definition of DPR means, and the treatment steps of the process of advanced water filtration. And hopefully by the end of this, all of you will have a more positive outlook on DPR and you will be ready when this becomes a thing in the future. So currently in Phoenix, Arizona, we get our water from mainly two sources. The Salt River, which is this thing right here. As you can see, it's kind of dried up, but that's because it's the dry season. Also, we dam a lot of it. And we get our other water from the Colorado River, as many of you know. Currently, we are treating about upwards to 100 million gallons per day. That's per day. That is a lot of water. And we send that out to the distribution system. And once that occurs, it is sent into the sewage and it's sent over to the two wastewater treatment facilities that we have here in Phoenix, Arizona. And from there, the water is treated to EPA standards, and it is reused in a sense that half of it goes to Palo Verde, which is our nuclear power plant that is near Buckeye, and the other half goes to Tres Rios, which is a artificial marsh that we have created from our water. That's where the final step of purification happens, and it's sent off into other rivers. And that is currently what we are doing with our wastewater. But in the future, we would hope to reuse as much as we can and put it back into the system. So the next part is what is DPR and what we currently are using it for. So currently our treatments are indirect portable reuse, and that means that we are putting in water back into this environment as a buffer before it is then treated again in a drinking water plant, and it is sent to the distribution. But here with direct portable reuse, it skips that environmental buffer completely and it goes into the distribution system. This saves time, money, and essentially, like with the technology that we have today, it is perfectly feasible. So I will now go through the four additional steps that are used in advanced water purification for the use of DPR. Currently, Scottsdale does have a wastewater treatment plant going on that uses reverse osmosis, membrane filtration, and UV disinfection. These three treatment steps essentially clean the water to the point where it's just the molecules. So the first one is reverse osmosis. This is where the water is forcibly pushed through a membrane which is just it's like a sheet of paper that has incredibly tiny holes in there that will only let water molecules go through. It's basically like a pasta strainer where you pour your pasta out and the water filters out, but the pasta stays behind. That's essentially what reverse osmosis does. So as the filter as the filter has the water being pushed through it, all the water is going to go out, but everything else in the water, like organic solids, suspended solids, microbes, and other particulate matter that we don't want in our water to be in there, will be separated from that. And then with membrane filtration, it's essentially the same thing, but instead of the water permeating out or like going through it on its own, the water is pushed through forcibly to make sure that all the other substances in the water that's in there are gone. And this requires a lot of energy, but that is because it's incredibly hard to remove water from everything else. But because of the energy output or input we're putting into it, it ensures that our water is completely clean. And our last final step is UV disinfection. And that is where we run the water through these pipes that are lined with UV light. So UV light basically comes from the sun, which is setting currently, but you know what the sun looks like. It's also the same thing that people use in their tanning beds, as well as black lights. UV light is just a different wavelength of other light. So the light that's used is at a very high intensity, and what that does, it kills all the bacteria or pathogens in the water. With the light, it goes through and it breaks apart chemically the bonds in the pathogens and deactivates them so they're not infectious. And through all those treatment steps, we're given water that is purer than any other water that you can find in nature. You can think that groundwater is super clean, and it is, but when you extract groundwater, there's always going to be something in there. There's going to be some pathogens, there's going to be some dissolved solids in there. Fresh spring water, there's going to be something in there, because that's just how the nature is. There's something there that's going to contaminate the water. But here in this process, it is chemically clean. It's essentially the molecules, the H2O molecules are clean. That's just what's left behind after all the treatment steps. It's not like all the bad stuff in water that we treat for at drinking water plants. They're not like chemically bonded to the water. They're in the same solution and they can be separated. And this is what this process does. It cleans the water completely. So there's essentially nothing wrong with this water. It's water. Water has been circulating throughout our planet for millions of years. Some water that you've already been drinking has already been wastewater at one point. It's just that the steps, it's been longer, but the same water we've been drinking has been the same water that the dinosaurs drank. And from this, living in a desert, this is an essential technology that can be very helpful for us, because we're a growing population. How are we going to provide water to all of these people that are moving here? We can't really take more water from the Colorado, because the Colorado's drying up, and the water rights associated with that are very complicated, because there's Colorado, California, and all the such. And from that, we can't rely on that source. In the Salt River, yes, it's providing us water, but it's not an infinite source. Here, this will kind of close off our system and make it a very sustainable method that allows us to ensure a future for future generations and people to live here for hundreds of years. I hope that this explanation of this talk has helped in any way to change your mind about wastewater. It is not something that should be disgusting. I mean, it is, but once it's treated, it's perfectly fine. Like we're taught, we shouldn't treat people based on their past, so we shouldn't treat this water based on its past. So I hope that my talk has influenced a little bit about how you guys feel about DPR and more acceptable about it, and know that this water is completely fine, and I hope that you too would like to drink it.